Hi, I'm Debbie Atuk. I'm a Bering Straits Native Corporation shareholder and a Skyview investment portfolio specialist. Please be sure to watch through to the end for an important disclaimer. This is a series of interviews that I've been doing to explore the opportunities and challenges for economic development in Alaska, primarily in rural Alaska, and typically we talk about village Native corporations. Today's a little bit different. When INCSA was started, it didn't necessarily mandate that the Native corporations address social services specifically, yet shareholders often expect their corporations to help with housing assistance or improvements to sewer and water or even internet connectivity. But those are the kinds of services that states usually pay for with tax dollars, and Native corporations have no ability to levy taxes. So in many cases, nonprofit organizations step up to fill the gaps for Alaska Native communities. The Cook Inlet Regional Corporation's nonprofit arm, the Cook Inlet Tribal Council, provides nearly 50 essential programs serving more than 12,000 Alaska Natives and American Indian people every year, making it one of the major social service providers in Alaska. CITC delivers education, employment, family preservation, and substance dependency among its many programs. And CITC has also expanded into video game development, creating the first indigenous-owned video game company in the United States with their partners E-Line. Gloria O'Neill is the president and CEO of CITC. She's also the executive chair and board member of E-Line Ventures. Welcome, Gloria.
Good to be with you today. Good to see you, Debbie.
It's so good to see you. I'm so glad that you were able to be here today. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is social services. In the opening, I really wanted to set up the discussion so that we can talk about why there are nonprofit arms that go hand in hand with each regional corporation. Do I have that right? Is that why they exist? And if I don't have that right, what do I have wrong?
Well, in your opening statement, you talked about how Alaska is structured in terms of its asset and resource base for Alaska Native people, where we have 12 regional corporations, obviously 13th being outside the state. And within those 12 regions, each region has a regional nonprofit arm, sometimes a health arm, sometimes they're consolidated. There are a few that are not considered nonprofits, but tribes like Tlingit and Haida. So the way I look at this is tools in our toolbox as Alaska Native people, whereas Native corporations really focus on the financial well-being of its shareholders and building that shareholder equity. The nonprofits and the tribes really in those various regions, depending on the way that it's structured, really provides the social services, health, education, and housing. And so within the Cook Inlet region, we have 3 SERI nonprofits. So we have South Central Foundation that really focuses on medical services, primary care, behavioral health. We have the Cook Inlet Housing Authority that is on housing assistance and support. And then CITC, and I always like to say about CITC is that we're cradle to grave. And so we're nonprofit. We are there working with moms who are pregnant and babies all the way to the other end of life, which is burial assistance. And in addition to our nonprofits, we also have an educational arm, the SERI Foundation, where we work together ensuring that we make appropriate educational investments, not only in the shareholders, but also in supporting the cultural heritage of the region as well.
It's amazing how many different programs that you provide. What is your largest program?
I'd say CITC's budget has grown dramatically over the last 5 years in particular. And we've we've grown all of our programs and services that we offer. You will find that CITC has one of the largest recovery support continuums in the state, meaning that we provide both inpatient and outpatient services along with peer support. And working with our tribes to develop that infrastructure. educational investments, which is a high priority for us, where we have unique partnerships with the Anchorage School District. And we hire teachers. We actually have in-classroom teaching, both from your more advanced science and math to some more of the technology opportunities through our Fab Lab. We work with families who are extremely vulnerable, and working with the Office of Children's Services to probably one of our largest investments is really employment and training. It's all about self-sufficiency and helping people, both our young and those who are still of working age, where they could get additional training, or we can connect them to unsubsidized employment. And in some cases, we build out employment opportunities within CITC or partners, and we call those subsidized opportunities. So within CITC alone, we provide about 20,000 individual services. And in addition to that, we've just recently have taken on 3 other nonprofits to grow. We'll talk a little bit about the Justice Center later, but we've really grown that asset. And now last year, I believe we've provided services to about 4,000 individuals, which I'm really proud of, along with investing in early Head Start through what we call our Claire Swan Head Start Center. And just most recently, get out the native vote. So we've taken this asset on, and so really trying to make sure that we're strategic and forward thinking and how we could build out support for all of our people in the state, and that they have the right information so that they know how to make their voice heard.
That's amazing. I particularly am very fond of the Alaska Native Justice Center, and we will get back to that. Something that you touched on is actually one of the topics that I wanted to make sure that we covered because it's something that's really near and dear to my heart, and that's when young people from around the state come from rural areas to Anchorage, and they might not necessarily be prepared to enter the workforce. I was just wondering what CITC can do or does to help that specific demographic, because I feel like they're in such a vulnerable spot. It's an important time when young people are starting to leave home and get on their feet, and Anchorage is daunting. It's big.
Yes. Yeah, I remember the first time when I drove myself around Anchorage and how overwhelmed I was, and I'd moved in from Bristol Bay, so I completely get it. And I also remind myself of the first time that in my role, I went into one of the schools where we have our teachers, which is East High, and I was trying to find our classrooms, and I was so overwhelmed by the diversity and how large our high schools are. In some cases, they're up to 1,000 kids. Could you imagine coming from rural Alaska and trying to navigate that? So what we really try to do at CITC is connect our educational opportunities with employment-related opportunities. And we have align those partnerships so that we can meet our people where they are, meaning sometimes people who move in from rural Alaska come to us and they know exactly what they need to be successful. It might mean that they need help in dusting off their resume, right? And then we connect them with employment opportunities. Or it might mean where they themselves and their families need additional support, housing, and education. We work with our partners to do this, to really help them figure out how they could remove some of the barriers where they can then reach their potential. And that we are a partner in that, and they participate in their own destinies, right? And so our board believes that that's really what self-determination is all about, is how do we take these resources and invest them in such a way where that when people come into CITC, especially our young people, that they have a partner in their potential. And that's the way we like to see ourselves. So most recently, what we've done to really think about this concept of self-determination and help people in their self-sufficiency efforts so that they feel that they step into their potential for themselves and their families, is we have taken what we call Alaska's People. It's been our employment referral basically job bank for a number of years. And what we've done is we've taken that, we've pulled it out and created its own department within CITC. And when we remodeled our building, because remember, our building actually was severely damaged during the earthquake. So that was a big challenge, but also a big opportunity, because we were able to think about how we could make an investment within CITC and create a job center where we will become the #1 job referral agency in the state. And so what we're doing is we are creating this job center, and we've taken on an asset called AlaskaNativeHire.com that Siri built, so that our young people, regardless of where they are, it's not that old traditional social service model where you have to come in, you got to like fill out paperwork, that we're going to use this technology to connect people to jobs across the state, regardless of where they're from, regardless of, maybe the social status that they find themselves in, so that all people are eligible. So the federal government isn't telling us who's eligible or not. And so we're really excited about building this asset and meeting people where they are and helping them connect to those lifelong career pathways.
That's fantastic. I love that. No, this is really, really great. I mean, I feel like what you're doing is you're creating an extension of a role that people in high school might be already familiar with. And it seems like it's a little bit of a career counselor role through your agency, and helping people to find opportunities, which is a little bit like the old way. But it seems like it's a really good tool, and I think this is the perfect place for it. I love it. It sounds like an exciting way to find your way. And like you said, it sounds like you also serve anyone, not necessarily young people. I was specifically asking about supporting young people, but you're talking about supporting anyone who's looking for work to enter the workforce, right?
Yeah.
It's so good. I know it's not totally unusual for a nonprofit to have a for-profit arm, but your for-profit entity is a video game development company called Upper One. Is that right?
Yeah.
What made you guys decide to do this, and how has it affected your financial footing, if I can ask about that, since this is an economic development conversation?
So it's been a journey. And it goes back to the whole vision around self-determination, and our board saying that as we create support for our people so that they really stand in their own self-determination for themselves and their families, that we also do that as an organization, that we model that. So what they said is we want to determine our own destiny, knowing that we're always going to have a relationship with the federal and state government, but that CITC does not need to act as an arm of the government, that we really need to be guided by our tribal values and that spirit of self-determination. So they wanted me to make an investment that would eventually create a resource and revenue back to CITC in its mission. So, for example, if we had a great program that the feds invested in for 3 to 5 years and an administration left and that program no longer existed, that we as Native people could say, this is how we make the best impact in our community, and that we could fund it. And so, of course, I'm asking myself, how do we do this? Because CITC, honestly, we did not have a lot of unrestricted money. I'm talking it was a really small fund that we initially invested, and it took us years to save for that fund. I think it was like a couple $1 million. And so we looked at everything from funeral homes to real estate. And we said to ourselves, we're like, our main job is to serve people, right? And so we are doing this for profit in service to CITC and our people. And so what do we need to invest in? And I just took our people and I put it at the core of that. I thought about our young people. And when we started to think about it, I was thinking, wow, we have so much value in our stories. So why can't we connect our culture and our stories to the rest of the world using video games? And of course, then we had to go out and find a partner whose values aligned with CITC to begin with, because we knew nothing about video games initially. And that was back in, it's been a while now, like 2012 or 2013 that we started this. And fast forward, we did several different deals with Eline Media, eventually integrating our IP in through a joint partnership with Eline, and that's where now we own 30% of the company. And then we launched Never Alone to the world market in 2014. It's been 6 years. Now I'm telling you, it's still selling, and this is unheard of in the video gaming industry. It's still selling because it actually pioneered a whole new genre in games. I didn't know we were doing this, but Native people, we do this a lot. We're so creative, right? That we created a process where I said we have to go to our community. We have to involve our own writers, our own storytellers, our own elders. We have to involve the Anupiaq people, because this whole story is around a young Anupiaq girl. And so I wanted to make sure it was authentic, and we created a process called inclusive development. And not only did we give Never Alone to the industry and the world market, but we gave that process. Now people are starting to use that process so that when we put our creative voice into the world with our own story, we're the validators. We're leading the creation of it and making those decisions. And as a result, Never Alone had magic, and that's why it's still selling. And so we're pretty excited about that. Now, fast forward, we're still in this investment. We are just on the verge of another big deal with a firm out of Southern California. And we're looking at Never Alone too. We also launched with strategic partners a video game called Beyond Blue that was in partnership with BBC. It's about the exploration of oceans. That did quite well. We have another game out that's really about learning how to build worlds from more of an educational aspect. And so we're really excited about this investment. It's pushed us on our executive team to be in such a different industry. But I have to tell you why it's been so impactful is because it has shown us that in this fast and rapidly evolving world, technology is key. And as Native people, we need to figure out where to be in that technology space. It can't happen to us, that we need to be there. We need to help direct it. We need to help build it. And so we within our for-profit now, when we align our mission and our values, our board is saying, where can we be progressive around this investment in technology? Where do we have our voice? How do we develop new radical learning models? That brought us the Fab Lab, and we're moving now into Fab 2.0, where we'll have a center of machines making machines, creating an entrepreneurial center around that and supporting our young people. It gets back to your prior question about people when they move in from rural Alaska, that they come to CITC and we will have all of these supports and learning opportunity for people so that they can connect to their potential. And I'm so excited about it.
I think that's tremendous, Gloria. I think it's awesome. Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah. When you say it, that Native people are creative, they're ingenious, really, right? I mean, to have been so successful, to have, I like to look at the circumpolar map, because if you look at the map from that point of view, the culture, the Inuit culture expands all the way around the circumpolar regions, like 10,000 miles in circumference, which tells you that the people are very intelligent, highly mechanical. They're problem solvers, and they're also storytellers. So you started with the storytelling, but now it sounds like you're moving into the more mechanical and engineering and innovation, which I think there's no limit to how much innovation can come out of the young people from our regions. You know, the young people in places who are on the northern coast of Alaska, like, I don't know if you see this video, but there's people who are posting videos from their drones. You know, kids are getting in, and adults too. They're posting footage of ships that they're seeing on the high seas. And I just keep thinking to myself, you know, this is an opportunity where we can connect technology, communications, and local, you know, interest to high-tech interests. So there's no reason why we can't be doing some outreach to the kids who are on the coastal regions to be part of, you know, keeping eyes on what's happening on the high seas on the edge of the U.S. Arctic. It's like there's really a lot that we can do when it comes to math, science, engineering. And I'm glad that you guys are looking at that. We've covered so much ground, and I feel like we've only like skimmed the surface for everything. But since we've come to the end of the 20-minute mark, I want to make sure that we talk about something that both of us are very passionate about, and that's the Alaska Native Justice Center. So that's something I've had the opportunity to participate in person in the last few years. This year, because of COVID, you'll be doing the annual fundraiser virtually. So I want to make sure you have a little bit of time here to talk about that and how people can participate.
Great, thank you. So yes, we will have our annual fundraiser, but it's going to look a little different because of COVID. So I'm looking at this as an opportunity. It's going to be a month-long virtual fundraiser, which we're going to launch here within the next couple of days. So I'd really like to ask everyone to go to www.anjc.org to make a donation. And just to remind you all, those of you who've supported, thank you. And those who want to become a part of our network, I really appreciate it. But we really focus on building out the direct support service for those individuals who've been victims of crime, those individuals who are finding their way out of incarceration and back into society. We work with tribes in the Indian child welfare area where we support tribes in their work, along with a growing advocacy platform. And as we know, our world has so much social unrest that we, through the Alaska Native Justice Center, really want to be a partner there. And so we're starting to have community conversations, for example, with the local police department and saying, how can we work together? How can we become stronger together? And lastly, I'd like to add, you know, COVID's done so much, our guest has disrupted our lives in so many ways. And at CITC, because of who we are, we've kept our doors open and we've really looked for innovation to provide services to our people. And so one of those innovations this year is working through the Justice Center. We are providing a virtual court-related option at CITC where we will have a room and we will have support, legal support if needed. So individuals coming in can actually be within their court proceedings. We're actually becoming an extension of the court using technology. So I just put that out there. We're doing a lot of different work and I really appreciate all the support.
Well, I want to thank you, Gloria, for your time today. Thank you for all that you do at CITC and at the Alaska Native Justice Center. I am looking forward to participating with the fundraiser. I'm getting my donations ready right now for the silent auction, so I'll be sending that shortly. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye and wish you happy holidays, which are coming up shortly, and say hi to your daughter when she comes home from law school.
Oh, I will. So good to see you, and thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.